Hello, and welcome to the I Ain't Got Nothing to Say podcast, where we intend to delve into the silenced voices of prophets whose messages were stifled by the constraints of religious experiences. Join us as we uncover the untold stories and explore the profound impact these silenced prophets endured. I'm your host, Prophet Shardae, and we won't be silenced anymore. What's going on, family? How y'all feeling? Welcome back to another episode of I Ain't Got Nothing to Say. Woo! Guess what? Guess what? On the 5th of February, your girl turned 36 years old. Woo! Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to me. Child, if you don't celebrate yourself, nobody else will. So I just wanted to say happy birthday to me. 36 years old, and I'm grateful, grateful, grateful to God to see another year. I'm grateful for another year. And so this episode, I decided that we're going to talk about the origin of Shardae. I think that it's important to kind of think about where you come from, where you originate from, because it gives you a blueprint of where you've been and where and how the Lord set your life up. And so I say, you know what? I'm gonna be a little more personal today and share the origin of Shardae. So before we get started, I'm gonna do our vocabulary word. And guess what our vocabulary word is? Our vocabulary word is origin. So, good old Google says origin has multiple definitions, including the beginning of something, a person's ancestry. Sorry, or the intersection of coordinate axes. So, the type of origin we're going to talk about today is the beginning of a person's ancestry. So, February 5th, 1989, I was born to a woman. Her name is Jackie Slaughter. Her and Hawthorne Nelson got together and made me. And at the time, my biological mother was not equipped to raise me. So she was a vessel used to birth me. And she um, had given me up for adoption. You know, as I think about it, I'm not even sure if that was her choice or if the choice was given to her. But that's what happened. So I ended up with my mom, Pam Nicholson, and my father, Charles Nicholson, who raised me in a home where I was loved, well taken care of, and they did the best that they knew how with raising me. Fast forward, I learned that I was adopted at the age of 6, and I had so many questions. I believe I talked about this maybe in the first episode, but maybe not. But I had so many questions, and I never really asked them. Really just grew mute because I felt like I shouldn't ask these questions. And so I just went on and let the questions just go in my mind and spin around in my mind and just kind of lived life until I got older and started those questions started to torture me. As I got into my teenage years, I began to realize that some of the things that I thought about, some of the things that I did, some of the ways that I processed thoughts, it wasn't familiar to my parents. Um, some of the things I experienced, some of the sensitivities that I had wasn't familiar to them because we 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 aren't blood. And so sometimes those things get kind of hard because if you're an adoptee, to try to express your thoughts, to try to express how you feel to a mother or a father who has taken you in, sometimes they won't understand why you may feel that way. Their thoughts may be, well, we rescued you. We made sure that everything was good for you. We made sure that you had everything that you needed. We tried to love you the best way we knew how, but there was still something within me that I couldn't get answered. I couldn't get an understanding to. There were things that I've done that I'm just like, where does this come from? And so I grew up. I pretty much, um, I would say, y'all, I pretty much became the person that I thought that everybody else wanted me to be. That's good, Shardae. That's good. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I became the person that I thought everybody wanted me to be. I graduated high school. I went to college, a community college. In that first quarter or that first semester of community college, I did pretty well. I was good. I went to work. I was starting off pretty well. I was doing what I needed to do. I went to church. I was, doing all the things. I was walking and lining up right with the what the Lord wanted me to do, or so I thought. And the second semester of college, this is where I started to break out of what people wanted me to do. And I started to do what I wanted to do. At that point, I met my eldest son's father, and we dated for a while, and I ended up pregnant with my eldest son. And I was 21 when I gave birth to him. Hmm, wow. And that was tough because even though I was not a teen mother, I was, an adult, because once you're 21, you're an adult. I still I still wasn't equipped to be a mom. I actually hid my pregnancy for 5 months. And when my mom found out, she was like, "What were you going to do? Hide the baby in the closet?" I said, "No, I don't know what I was going to do. Maybe I was going to give it up for adoption, like I was adopted." Catch that. And my mother was used by the Lord. She said, "Oh no, you're going to raise this child." And I was like, "Okay." So as I raised Mason, my parents helped me a lot. I still was doing what I wanted to do. It's like I kept trying to do what was right. Like Paul says, evil's always present. Like I kept trying to do what was right. I was trying to work. I was trying to be the best mother I can, but I just did not fit into this way of how people wanted me to be. I just couldn't do it, and I was like, I need to figure out who I am. I need to figure out what I want to do. I got to figure all this out. And I feel like between 20 and 21, Thank you, Holy Spirit. You're so good. Between the year of 21 and 26 years old, it was this dance that I did. It was me going from being who people wanted me to be to me doing what I wanted to do, to what felt great to me, what felt great to the flesh, what I thought was cool, what I thought was in. And it was like this back and forth. It was like one season I was doing right, I was lining up right, I was doing all the things, I was doing what people wanted me to do. Then the next season I was thrown off. I was out here, I was with all types of men. I would go on Tinder, meet this one, meet that one, do this, do that. And then I was just like, I found myself back on the side of doing what people wanted me to do. And it's funny because that was a mindset where the mindset was I'm doing what people wanted me to do, but it actually wasn't. They never told me like do this, do that, do this, do that. It wasn't that. It was an idea in my mind. Why? Well, around the age of, help me, like 23, 24, I met my ex-husband at the time. Well, my ex-husband. And he was in the church and I was in the church, and I was like, "Okay, I think I can, finally do exactly how we're supposed to do. You're supposed to be in the church, you're supposed to get married, and you're supposed to have children, and you're supposed to raise those kids and have a household and do what you need to do and just keep it moving." And we had some good times. We were, trying our best to live right and quote unquote hold ourselves out until marriage, but we didn't. But we still ended up getting married. And whoa, why did we do that? All hell broke loose. Long story short, my people, my support system, they did not agree with it at all. They were so against it. And I was just like, but this is what aren't we supposed to isn't this what you're supposed to do? Isn't this how it's supposed to be? Like, what is the problem? I'm so confused. Isn't this how you're supposed to, isn't this the trajectory of life? And I remember having meetings and conversations and my friends pulling me aside, my former pastor having a meeting, my parents having a meeting, and everybody and their mother was like, no. And I'm like, but why? So, long story short, we went on, we got married, and within a year, I was divorced. Plot twist. I still was doing what I thought everybody wanted me to do because at that point, I don't know if I made that decision to make the divorce or was it others who told me to. Mm. I gather myself, I make the call to get the divorce. And I remember going home and I felt broken and shattered into pieces. I remember specifically, I was with my mom and I was cleaning the kitchen and I just bawled in tears. She just started to pray. My grandmother was on the phone. God rest her soul. She started to pray, but I couldn't understand because it was just so much that I did not get. It was team too much. But now, living life forward but understanding it backward, the divorce was probably the best thing that could have happened to me. Why? because y'all, I had to heal. I had to get to the root of all of my pain. The root started with the origin of me. And that origin was being adopted, being taken from my birth mother, being rejected from my birth father, huh, being abandoned by my blood family, and not knowing who I really was. I took years on top of years to dig, to understand what exactly was wrong with me. What happened? So I went searching. I went searching for my birth mother and I found her. And my first encounter with her was on accident. And it was interesting because quickly I can see that she was funny, that she is funny, not was, she is funny. And some of those quirks I have, I can see her love for kids, like all the kids, all the nieces and nephews that know her, that grew around her and stuff, love her. That's something that I also possess. Kids love to be around me, hence I tutor. And immediately she started to explain to me why. I didn't even ask the question. She started explaining to me why. After our first meeting, I started to say, wow, Lord, I didn't understand why I was adopted. But looking at my mother today, I kind of get why you did it. I was starting to understand why he needed me to be with my mom, Pam, and my father, Charles, because he needed to be introduced to me early on. And their foundation was built on the church. Their foundation was built on Christ. So I kept searching. I met my two older brothers, James and Justin. God bless and God rest my brother Justin's soul. He has passed on, but I met them and it was like, oh my God, I have two older brothers. I met some cousins and the questions that I've had started to be answered. And one 4th of July, I went to a cookout and I had two of my friends with me. And my aunt, my oldest aunt, said to me, you know, when you were born, I was supposed to take you. And she said, but when I went up to get you the next day, you were gone. I was like, what? She said, yep, you were already gone. And when she said that, I immediately thought of Moses and how Moses was in that basket on the river just a going. And I'm like, man, God, you had a plan for me. You was like, oh no, I got to get her to a family that knows me. I need to make sure she can meet me at a young age. That was another question that was answered. And I would journal and I would talk to the Lord about all that I learned and experienced, and my disappointments and my hurt turned into gratefulness, thankfulness, because it was like, woo, there are some things that I've seen at these cookouts that you really covered me from. Fast forward to around 2022. I think we all were still kind of home, kind of, the pandemic is slowly easing up. And I took an ancestry kit and I mailed it off because now I'm like, okay, I know my mother's side. It's time to find my father. Within Once I did the ancestry kit and the results came back, I called my good sister Sana because she did this all. She went through this whole thing. She did it all. And I said, I did it. She was like, all right, let's get the login name, username, all the things. So we put it all in. Within 48 hours, I was able to find my father. I was able to find him only to find out that he did not want to meet me. Shh. Crushed. I'm a pretty dope girl. Like, why you don't want to meet me? What's happening? I'm, everybody will want me as a daughter, no sir, but I was crushed. And I remember laying on my bed and sitting on my bed thinking like, man, like, I don't want nothing from you. I don't want any money. I don't want anything. I just want to know who you are. I want to see what you look like. I want to see if we have the same smile. Do we have the same hands? Do we have the same feet? Do I sound like you? Do I laugh like you? I just want to see what who are you? What are you like? Unfortunately, I'm not and wasn't still not able to get to know that. But his brother, Uncle Arthur, reached out to me and he began talking to me. And he said, oh, yeah, girl, you got the Nelson nose and you got the this and you got the that. And I was like, wow. And he says, I heard you on that Facebook preaching and teaching, and you remind me of my father. And I said, really? Tell me about it. He said, yeah. Your grandfather was a pastor and he preached the word of God. And he did this and he did that and all these things. And I'm like, huh, these are my origins. Oh, this is where I come from. During these times, during this time of year, I don't know what it is about this year, but I reflected a lot. I reflected where God has brought me from and why and how he did it. I'm grateful, so grateful for what he did in my life up until this point. Even though there were times I didn't understand it, and I'm sure I gave my mom a run for her money, and I'm sure I gave my father a headache, and I'm sure that the people around me who helped raise me shook their head quite a few times. But I will not apologize for going down this road to get healed, to get to the root of what was hurting me, to get to know the origin of Shardae. 10 years ago, I was 26, and I'll tell y'all, I was unrecognizable. My face right now is as about, it looked yellow to me, so it look about yellow, but I'm telling y'all, back then my face was very dark. I was real skinny, and not a good skinny. I was sick skinny. I didn't have much. I didn't think of myself as much. But I started to do my work and I started to find out who I am. Today, I know a little more about who Sharday is, but I'm still finding her out. I'm still evolving. I'm still getting to know who she is. And I'm happy that the Lord allowed me to get to year 36 to continue to find her and find out who she is and get back to her original design. My story today was real raw. Gave it to you the best way I knew how. I ain't writing nothing down. Straight off the dome. I hope and I pray that, if nothing else, you go to the origin of you and you find where that hurt was, where it started. You start digging and you start healing so that you can become who you were originally designed to be. I love y'all. We'll be back next week, and soon we got about 2 new faces that will come and be guests on the podcast and talk about their stories of being unmuzzled, finally opening up their mouth. I love y'all. Have a good week. Peace. Thank you for joining us for today's episode of I Ain't Got Nothing to Say podcast. If you found this conversation impactful, please take a moment to subscribe and leave a review. Go tell your prophet friends that there is a space for them. Remember, we won't be silenced anymore.